Hi friends and new friends out there in Dash Nation. I'm Tao Satoshi and you're watching Cash Alternative TV. Some of you may remember an interview I did with Drako of the Kuvacash project in Zimbabwe. For those of you that didn't catch it, Kuvacash is a new payment system that's going to use a supply of US dollars to attract Zimbabweans to try Dash. This African country has the need and the desire for a stable currency after years of financial instability. The team from Kuvacash has come up with a very interesting plan to make Zimbabwe a Dash nation. Today I talk with Drako again, but I start with Kuvacash CEO James Serrachera about what's happening with this exciting project. Please enjoy. Welcome to the show, James.
Thank you, Tao. It's great to be on the show.
So for the people that aren't familiar with you, you work for the Kuvacash project. Can you give yourself a quick introduction and how you got into crypto and how you got into Dash?
So I'm James Serrachera. I'm co-founder and CEO of Kuvacash. This is a project that's looking at bringing the Dash mechanism into the mainstream by enabling people to make peer-to-peer transfers, as well as being able to actually use it in the mainstream economy. We first started looking at crypto with my co-founder Drako in about 2009. That was straight after the hyperinflation crisis that was in Zimbabwe. It was still pretty early stages then, and we continued to look at the different ways in which we might be able to do this. And 2017 was the year when we finally said, okay, let's put this together properly and make a good go of it.
Okay, so you were involved with Bitcoin before Dash, or no?
Bitcoin in the early days, like a lot of people, I bought some and then changed machines and went through that pain. But I essentially was watching it from afar and could see the potential of the blockchain more broadly. But what was actually missing was something that was suitable for high volume, low cost transactions that can settle instantly.
Okay, so that's definitely something. Like I just had my last client, people that were on the show, they were from Venezuela, and these are two countries that I think can really benefit from Dash because of the low fees and the instant transactions. It's really like a cash, and I'm really excited to see what Dash can do in these countries to improve the lives of people.
Yeah, well, Venezuela is actually a really interesting parallel. In fact, some of the cash shortage issues that are being faced in Venezuela at the moment, they actually are very, very similar to what Zimbabwe went through over the past few years, where essentially you've got a drying up of the foreign currency reserves, you've got a tightening of monetary policy and exchange controls. And as a result, it becomes very difficult for people that need to import machinery or spare parts or even inventory. And you end up with a situation where there's a run on cash, where cash becomes a scarce commodity, and the scarcer it gets, the more valuable it becomes. You end up with parallel markets that affect how easy it is for people to actually get cash. And I think there's a very compelling use case in a place like Venezuela as there is in Zimbabwe.
Okay, so let's talk about the climate on the ground a little bit. I know recently there was a military coup and the government of Zimbabwe was ousted and replaced with another one. Can you kind of touch on what happened there, and how do you feel that's going to affect your position as a startup looking into spreading Dash around there?
Yeah, so it's been a number of months of monumental change for Zimbabwe. There's quite a lot of debate around whether it was a coup or not a coup, or whether it was a popular transition that took place. But what everybody does agree on is that the country is on a new trajectory that is where you've got general goodwill from the rest of the world, and also engagement that's happening in a country that for many years was actually very, very isolated. How this has affected us as a project. I guess it's been overall positive, because it means that there are a number of people within government, within the private sector, who are more open to innovation and looking at new ways of doing things. So that's been really good for us. But it's very difficult for a country doesn't change overnight after 37 years of a certain way of doing things. So it's still very early stages. There is, of course, the big matter of an election that is coming up in the middle part of this year. There's no date set as yet, but that's really, I think, where we're really going to see what the shape and form of Zimbabwe will be over the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay. So can you, for the viewers that might not be familiar with Kuvacash, what exactly is your business model and what are you trying to accomplish?
So basically, Kuvacash, we're positioning it as the wallet of the future. It's a wallet that enables people to securely store their money and transact at a low cost, and in a way that's as close as possible to it. So I guess the parallel, you need to set some context around the problems that we're looking to solve. At the moment, you've got a huge amount of money that's circulating, over $5 billion in the informal economy. And there's reasons why that money is not actually flowing through into the banks. One of those reasons is recent history, where hyperinflation wiped out the value of currency that people had within their accounts. You also had instances where people with foreign exchange balances, had those converted into a local currency. So there's been a number of instances where people have basically lost the value of what they have within the bank. So the confidence within the banking sector is something that has a long way to go before the mainstream public take money out of what's nicknamed the National Mattress Bank, the NMB, and start putting it through the formal economy. So what we want to do is to provide a way that allows people to secure their store of value in a secure way that's incorruptible, that also allows them to transact easily from their mobile wallets. So basically, really at a couple of taps of your mobile device, you've got a private bank or wallet in the palm of your hand.
Okay, so on the ground, since I was talking to Drako in another interview, but since you're actually there on the ground in Harare, I would ask you, like, what's the climate there towards these new technologies, and how likely are you to be able to gain people's trust with this?
Yeah, so trust is a big factor, because that people have been let down a number of times in as far as existing monetary mechanisms that are there. So there is appetite to actually look at new ways of doing things because of that experience. But I think also a big part of the trust factor is the partners that we look to engage. So in Zimbabwe, we have engaged directly and been very forthcoming in terms of providing information to the central bank. But we've also partnered with regulated financial institutions that understand the informal sector. So specifically microfinance institutions that are on a day-to-day basis working with ordinary people, whether they're plumbers or mechanics or hairdressers, everyday people who perhaps might not have been able to fit into the core mold that conventional commercial banks look for, but they are actually people who have a need to transact in a secure way, in a way that's cost effective without having to incur significant costs. So we've basically partnered with one of the most successful microfinance institutions in Zimbabwe. And what this has done for us is actually something that's quite important. From our perspective, it has given us a number of points, a point of presence in each of the main cities in Zimbabwe. So that's five in total, where people will actually be able to exchange fiat for Dash and vice versa. So they'll basically be able to on-ramp and off-ramp into Dash, which is a very, very significant for us.
So these exchanges, I know in Zimbabwe on the ground, there's like many different currencies that are on the go. Are you going to be accepting all these different currencies, or is it just going to be US dollars, or how's it going to work there?
Yeah, so for now, our focus is on US dollars and focusing on the US dollars that are already circulating within the informal sector. We do also need to take into account the different types of currency that are in there. That comes with some additional technical challenges which aren't difficult to solve, but certainly within the sort of the MVP early stage would focus it just on the one currency, but with capability to expand to several currencies.
Okay, so I really wish you well in this industry and this endeavor that you have going there. We got another visitor. Yeah.
Hey,
it's Drako. My former interviewee is back.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so we're just talking about the Kuvacash project. We're kind of getting a little bit of background into the situation on the ground in Harare and what exactly the Kuvacash project is looking to do. We haven't gotten into any of the latest updates yet, so maybe we'll go to you for that. How are we looking down there? Is Dash going to be spread pretty soon, or what's happening?
I'm going to let James have a little bit of a chat about our updates. As far as the product goes, it's actually looking really nice. We've done a few demos and things. It's a little bit different from maybe what's normally seen as a crypto wallet, which we're actually quite proud of. Makes it a lot easier for people to use, and it's looking pretty flash. So that's going to be. We'll give you a demo in due course of that, of course. But I'll let James and Spiro, who are actually in Harare, it's better if they have give you a quick update on the rest of what's happening there with our partner development. But we're going to provide a better kind of update towards the end of the month. So we'll just give you a few kind of previews as to what's going on. I suppose that's probably the best. What do you think, James?
Yeah, so I think a key highlight is the ability for people to on-ramp and off-ramp between fiat and Dash. I think that's massive because the reality is in the mainstream economy, what people are used to seeing is fiat currency, but now providing points of presence where they can actually physically go and purchase Dash, which is then connected with their wallet. That's a significant breakthrough for us because we know that we can actually reach the people on the ground. So that's something that we're developing further and looking forward to updating the rest of the network at the end of the month with this.
Okay, yeah, you've been pretty good at the communications with the webinars and the updates you've been giving to the community. So yeah, it's definitely good to see your progress over there. Let's talk a bit about the video that came out there with what was it called? What's the name of the production company?
It's Frame 48.
Right.
The guys that are doing that, they're following a number of teams around who are doing Dash projects on the ground. And so I think the series is called Starting from Scratch. And it's just sort of what we want to do is like really highlight like what we're doing from a grassroots perspective, because I think sometimes a lot of this stuff is sort of hidden in the background. The kinds of people who are involved and what we need to wrangle to really land it on the ground. I think it's going to be a really educational piece as well, so that people in the future are looking to have Dash come in and land in a particular jurisdiction or for a group of people can kind of see all of the processes around that, because there's a lot of parties involved, a lot of stakeholders, in order to really make it interesting, even just to make it interesting to the locals, so that it becomes something they can trust. See, because trust is really the key thing here. If we can have, we can do our job right, and we do it well. Actually, what Dash is something that people can trust. But in order to get to the point where they have the insight that that's the case, it's actually quite a big mission, and it needs to have a lot of services kind of put around it, just, in the interim to make sure that they can actually use it in their day-to-day lives. And even, it would become, if we do this right, it will become indispensable on the ground, because paying for things, even like for transport, for utilities, for any kind, going to the market, it's like a pile of different currencies. I mean, US dollar is key, and you've also got some electronic payments, which cause a lot of issues for merchants as well on the ground for a number of reasons. I won't get into too much detail, but we can certainly we could do a whole webinar on that, right? But it's a really systemic issue, and we've got to show that, hey, look, when we're bringing in Dash, it's something that, the foundation of what Kuvacash is all about is Dash, and making sure that, we bring it in the right way so that people can actually use it in their daily lives and not get stuck, if that makes sense, right? So, yeah, that's what we've been working on, I guess. The product itself, the technology we have to have like what's called a treasury in the background. That's something we've been working on, and that includes there's only three sort of users. There's the merchant accounts, and there's the user accounts, and the agent accounts, and different types of people want to take different sorts of currency risk, I guess, right? So a merchant, for example, is not in the business of taking cryptocurrency risk. A merchant is in the business of selling, their goods and services for a margin, and so they want to operate a business there. They have to be able to ensure that when they get paid, that they can bring their margin in, and sometimes the margins are quite small. So, and they may not be interested in saying holding Dash, because it's going to go to the moon or something. We want people to have the benefit of the upside if that happens, but we want people who are just interested in being able to run their business, frankly, right, to have that opportunity through what we're providing. And so we've already been working very hard on getting getting the treasury. So let's not confuse it as well. Dash treasury is one thing, or Dash governance by blockchain, and the Kuvacash treasury, which is what we do all of the Dash transactions and hedging and all the rest of it. These are different things, right? That allows us to operate like a financial system, but using Dash as the underpinning technology that allows the value storage aspects to be realized. So is that sort of clear?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting project. The thing I was wondering about is, how are you guys planning on spreading this around? Are you going to have like physical locations? How are you going to incentivize people to want to use Dash and Kuvacash? Like, either one of you guys can answer that. I
think let's have both a go at answering that. Sure. Let me just pitch in on that just quietly. So we've got a new way that we want. We know that we can bring people on board. And one of the things that we're allowing that we can do with Kuvacash is people don't actually need a wallet to receive money from a Kuvacash, from another Kuvacash wallet. They don't need a smartphone in order to first receive it, or to have an app there. And this is kind of key as well, because it gives us a lot more spread. We're still working on that concept. Like, it may be just that they don't need the app, and maybe they don't need a smartphone at all. So that's one method, and we have a proprietary thing that we're keeping really quiet, because we've got a really cool way of actually spreading one person to have one wallet to the next, if you like, so we can have invitations that people can bring people on board. We think most of the marketing, as well as having what's called above the line, and we're going to do some, we're going to run a few parties and have some interesting events that we showcase what Kuvacash is about, landing Dash and what that means. And what we're mainly going to do though is, and there's going to be that kind of more overt marketing, very localized as well. But what we're really wanting to do is to have people spread this by word of mouth. And I think that's how we can also, obviously, if someone recommends something to you, you usually, if there's someone that you'll normally trust them that they're recommending something that they like. So it's a bit of a filter for things that are no good, if you like. So if what we're producing is good and we can get people to talk about it and recommend it, that's one mechanism by which we can actually build the trust in the locals and in Dash and using the service to actually to their benefit. So it's a very delicate operation. And James, maybe, I don't know, do you want to talk about some of the insight that you guys found on the ground related to that?
Absolutely. I think a core part of adoption is actually solving some of the problems that are there with respect to the existing way that people transact or store value. One of those is high transaction costs. The cost of transacting, whether that's peer-to-peer payments or even payments, that the costs that merchants have to encounter when it comes to actually receiving different forms of payment. Those are all major pain points that actually hit the pocket of everyday people. So basically, making sure that we've got a way of providing a service that reduces the costs and reduces the inconvenience. Another key factor is the aspect of queuing. So this is queuing by, so if for example, in Zimbabwe, for a lot of employees who work hard for a month, they get paid at the end of the month. But the problem is they can't actually pull the money out of a bank. So if, so there's a lot of people who, if they're paid $500, if they go to their bank and say, okay, can I pull my salary out? They can't actually pull their money out. And that's because of some systemic issues that exist with the existing system of electronic payments.
It's actually a large overdraft in Zimbabwe that the Reserve Bank provisioned so that electronic money providers could continue to operate. And what that means is, if you imagine that there's a huge overdraft, and then you go to the bank and you want to remit you want to pay some currency out the country, the money's not there. Or you want to take cash out, the money's not there. It was given as an overdraft. It was just like made out of thin air, if you like. And that's just caused a lot of issues. This is to do with the current situation. So hyperinflation aside, having that big overdraft has just made, I think it's about $1.5 billion. James has got some more of the details. He's finally gone.
Yeah.
He'll try and rejoin us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that's left like this. It's like a hole in the finances which stops cash being available. So part of the job of what we've got is to make sure that cash is always available. That's one of our key propositions, is to make sure to users that when they have a Dash in their wallet, actually they can push a button, they can book money and go and get it out. And so without that, we find it very difficult to build trust. And the systems around that, the cash replenishment and the way that we have to manage our treasury and exchange and floats is actually really sophisticated, because we've got to make sure that no matter what, cash is always available. We've made that as the #1 proposition. So yeah, it's just, we're working through those details. We've got some very smart people on that. Actually, James.
Hey guys.
I just
connectivity is not always the easiest thing to get in our area. So yeah.
Yeah, understood.
I just filled in Tal with the systemic issue with the big overdraft and how that makes cash unavailable in general to the public. What our key proposition is that we have to make sure that cash is always available. So even if people can have Dash in their wallet, they actually need to push a button and be able to go and get cash out relatively easily within a day, or a day and a half. And we've worked very hard to make sure that that's something that we're going to pilot out even from day one.
Can you describe that a little bit more? So say if somebody has Dash in their wallet, what's the process that they're going to have to go through to get actual cash?
James, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So it's got to be dead simple. When I'd actually show you if I had my phone next to me, but effectively, what we will have is an actual physical outlet. We've got a network of agents that we've established. We've already established 5 already that cover the main cities in Harare, where people will be able to go to the counter and say, I would like to cash out X amount. The agent would plug in their mobile number. We're using the mobile number as the primary identifier, plus local identification. And the user, as long as they've got a balance that's sufficient to cover the request of cash that they have, they can get their cash there and then. We've also developed functionality that allows users to book cash in advance, so that effectively what they're doing at the agents is simply going to collect cash that they've already booked.
Okay.
I should mention a lot of the processes in the treasury, that's the Kuva treasury, is all about making sure that people are not exposed to surprises as well. So although we're all fans of the crypto side of things, the reality really is on the ground that USD is king, and we have to kind of work alongside that to build the trust, incrementally. That could take a long time, could take a year or more. So what we need to make sure of is when someone actually sends some cash, let's say, or that when they go to pick it up, it hasn't become less. This is a very big problem. So just consider that a few dollars is quite important within the context of that transaction in Zimbabwe. So we are working to figure out hedging policies and processes. We've got quite the team that's working on that, put it that way. And we want to make sure that experience for users is that they don't lose money either. So with at least not where it's a choice. So if they're holding Dash, we can't help this, the price will go up and down, right? But they're able to at least have some control of the decision as to how that money will come out and so on. What we want to encourage is people to do Dash to Dash transactions, because that's the ideal, to say, okay, they now trust as a money system, we're doing Dash to Dash transactions, and we've made it easier for them to do that, right? What it will definitely be like at the beginning is people will be pulling it in and out of cash, and we want the Dash to be the bank in the background, if you like, or the way that they store their money. And when they do that, we need them to be aware of what the risks are. At the end of the day, Dash is an internationally tradable token. It does the instant transactions. We can be able to introduce some privacy features as well around that. And these are its key propositions, right? And the fact that it's globally tradable means that even if you vanish for whatever reason, they will always be able to get their money out. Very important. Now, that's not the case with electronic payments providers at the moment in the country, right? If something goes wrong, they have a serious issue, because the cash isn't even available, right? The ledgers are kind of like inflated because of this large overdraft. But we've also, that's really one of the key benefits of using Dash in the background, that people will never lose their money if they do it right. And we were protecting it with BIP 32, 39, 44. They've got their 12 wallet words and all the rest of that. It's actually all very similar. We're using those 12 words. We're providing some education about what that means, right? Those 12 words gives you a bank in the sky, very secure bank. And around that, though, there's obviously the currency exposure that they have, that we also build some technologies around to try and mitigate. So it is a complicated set of problems. That's fine. We will take care of those. What we have to expose to users is a very, very simple way for them to do business and transact, and it to be inexpensive, like James was saying.
Okay, so I think it's a really good idea the way you guys are doing it, like introduce them to Dash, but don't force them to stay there, like they can try it, but they can also go into fiat, and they can discover how it's so much better in Dash, but if they're always free to go back out and try their hand at fiat again. And then probably eventually they're going to want to just transact in Dash, because as we both know, it's so much easier. So I think that's good the way you guys have that set up.
Here's something else to note as well, is that there's a lot of cash in the informal economy. So we want to turn that into Dash. So to do that, we have to have that on-ramp. And when we do that, we can actually form a lot of partnerships with people who want access to some of that money, to say, okay, like for example, we could, we're looking at taxation at the moment, right? Now, we can actually have it so that people pay less for a transaction, and that their local body authority gets tax revenues, because at the moment they're doing things like finding people on the street for riding a bike the wrong way and stuff, and it's very aggravating to the public. And the local authority actually, like the government actually receives no money to provide provision basic services. You need taxation for healthcare, for welfare, and collecting the rubbish and all the rest of it, right? So we've got a way that if we can bring that informal economy money into our system, that actually it will also benefit the local ecosystem. And we also, there's also a lot of other benefits around that. But what I'm saying is, at least there's billions of dollars in that informal economy that we could put into Dash. And so that's why we need to have that on-ramp. And we must let people be able to come in and out as they choose. It has to be their choice. We can't lock anyone in. It would be a negative thing. We just must say, look, it's better, and we're very open about it. come in with with your USD, and you can always get it out again. And then when we build that trust, I don't see why people would want to be stuffing bills into their mattresses, right? It would
Absolutely.
just be much more convenient to have it in his Dash and then be able to send it to people across that for payment. That's what we want to see. I mean, this is the mission for us at Kuvacash. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. I'll ask each one of you these questions. So first for James, you were mentioning about like physical locations. You have like 5 people set up for people to transfer money into US dollars. How many do you envision in the future, and where exactly are these people going to be set up?
Yeah, so it's actually not just people. It's actually branches of microfinance institutions where there's, again, it's about building that trust. People knowing that there's a fixed physical place where they can go and they can purchase Dash, and they can also sell Dash if they need to go the other way. And this is really a really critical part of bridging that gap between where people are in terms of using fiat currencies and the transition over to digital currency. So so we've made sure that there's a physical outlet that people will be able to go to in each of the 5 main cities in Harare. We envisage increasing that footprint significantly to so that we're basically servicing not just the main sort of central business district areas, but also some of the suburban areas as well. So we expect that network to expand further. We can update on what those projections are as we go, but so far so good in terms of just having key nodes that are accessible to people.
And at the present time, you're just going to be focusing on Harare itself, like not any other cities in Zimbabwe, or how's that working?
No, so actually we are looking at covering all of the key 5 cities or towns in Zimbabwe. So that's Harare, Bulawayo, Gweru, Mutare, Masvingo as well. So that basically gives us coverage in all of the places. And then thereafter, we'll look to expand that to some of the other cities with reasonable populations or exposure, places like Victoria Falls, Kadoma, Kwekwe, some of the smaller places in Harare, but starting off with the main sort of key urban centers.
Okay, so the question now for you, Drako. If I'm a Zimbabwean and I'm interested in Kuvacash, I download the Kuvacash wallet. What am I going to see there? What's the functionalities that are going to be in this wallet?
So then the first pilot version of the wallet is going to take you through an onboarding process. That's the first thing you see is we do an SMS loop validation of your phone and some other kind of security measures as well, and then it will once we've done all of that, actually it will give you your wallet words and so on. You'll have a wallet that you're able to then load with cash using one of the agents or master agents. You load it with cash, so you go and you put your Dash in there, but you can do that by having cash and remitting to an agent. You can actually book to do that, or you can go to one of the branches that the partnership branches that we're establishing at the moment. And we've got some very good news about that. That's coming up at the end of the month. So that's more than on its way. We've actually got a deal that we've done now. So that will allow user to be able to go and load themselves up with Dash like very easily, and then they can pay people Dash if they want to. They'll pay a US dollar equivalent in Dash, and a person can receive it. So they can pay with a phone number or with a little QR. We also have these short codes that they can use, because we have to make it very similar to what's already out there. So with a short code, a QR code, or a phone number, you can pay anybody Dash, and then those people can then go and book cash to be taken out, or they can simply send that Dash on to somebody else, just like a normal wallet, right? But the difference being that we're at least like unless they touch an advanced view, they won't be able, they don't see like the addresses and all the complexity of the blockchain stuff behind Dash. They just see that they can send Dash to somebody very easily with a phone number, more or less, or a short code. So I do actually have some screenshots of things. I can show you some blurry screenshots. But
or you can send them to me, and then I'll show them as we're showing this. You know? So if you just send them to me on Discord, then I'll post it as like during the video.
Yeah, we'll send a couple of shots through of what the interface is starting to look like. Yeah, I mean, we also want to be a little careful because we want to have a bit of impact with when we go out with this, and we spend a lot of work on the design and so on. So we'll send you a few shots so you can kind of get an idea of where it's at. But you know, ultimately, it's trying to make things a lot easier for users in terms of using a wallet, but also the services around it, allowing them to like cash, you know, go and get cash very easily, book an agent. Or go to one of the branches to go and pull money out. Yeah, I was going to mention something too about the VCO, because actually the way you're aware that we're actually involving the masternodes and we're going to essentially distribute a type of currency, if you like, which is how anyone who's involved in Kuvacash is involved, because they believe that this will, you know, this will have utility. And
yeah, I was going to get to that question, but since you brought it up, I'll just let you continue.
Okay, yeah. So I was going to say is because the agent's actually a very important part of the whole the VCO infrastructure. They actually use what we call the utility notes. It's a licensing system. So if you want to become an agent, you actually have to buy utility notes, and then you remit them as a business collateral to us, and that activates your exchange account, your agent account. And by doing that, it means that everyone's incentives are aligned. You know, we want people who are really committed to come on board, and we also want to be able to reward them. We're going to be giving people additional utility notes as rewards for participating well on the network. Having more of these notes actually brings some benefit. So they may receive, for example, a higher commission rate or have permissions to operate in different areas and so on. So I can't say a huge amount of that about that, except that the process of our distribution is going to start towards the end of March this month. We'll make an announcement about that, and that we've built all the software and everything for actually being able to distribute notes has been built now. So it's in the process of testing, and it's also actually, no, sorry, we've completed all the testing. It's in the process of the legals being done for it, because we want to make sure that, you know, everything's done the right way. These are, I don't know if this is a perennial thing, but they're the thing that's taking the longest at the moment. So software's been ready for a little while actually, but we just want to make sure that once we do the distribution, that it doesn't hamstring us from being able to do other things in future. It's a very important part of the system. So just asking everyone just to bear with it. It's coming. But we just have to make sure that it's done right.
Okay, so you're incentivizing these people that are going to be your trading from US dollar into Dash with the VCO. Do they also have like any kind of salary to do this, or any other incentives, or just the VCO at this time?
When people people as agents actually make money from trading with us, from providing the services, they make some money in commissions. So it's got, well, completely outside of the notes. The utility notes is that an agent will be able to. We want to encourage people to be entrepreneurial with it and be able to deliver services in the area. If they're providing a good service, we'll reward them accordingly. But also they will be able to. I hope we'll be able to either supplement or make a living from helping us make Kuva great. And especially in the early stages, I think we want to make sure that people really benefit from the growth of Kuvacash. You know, we want to put this across the whole of Africa. You know, it's that's the mission here. It's really Zimbabwe as a starting point, because it desperately needs something to help people like realize their potential, to help people get into business and be able to participate in the economy. But going forwards from this, it's really, you know, it's a much broader picture. And, you know, we've got some other plans. We'll share these plans as we go, but you're going to see some amazing stuff coming. Trust me.
Yeah, you two gentlemen are making me excited. Like, seriously, like if you guys figure this out to give all these incentives to people and have it work well on the ground, and, you know, the backup product's great, Dash is great. And I'm just thinking you guys are going to probably start something there. Other people are probably going to follow that business model. It sounds really good.
Yeah, we hope so. Dash is like the foundation platform for everything we're doing. So I think something I want to address too is like on like Dash Central and some of the discussions about related projects. For example, Frame 48, I think, got all the stick because it came across like it's like we're pushing Kuvacash and it should be pushing Dash. We're about Dash being the foundation and the root of everything that we're doing, but we're not Dash core, right? And we have to be like, in a ways, we have to be like the Intel inside. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So when we have a consumer face, it kind of aligns with the culture and the right types of services in front that say Dash isn't really going to deliver. You know, it's a different beast. We're about delivering those the services that will make it useful for that local market. And there's a lot of complexity there. I don't know. We're going to do some. I'm going to cover some of this in some of the webinars so that people can start to appreciate it. But the branding aspect of it and the way that we do those partnerships and the fact that, you know, Dash would just be the foundation and the underpinning of those activities, that makes Dash a bigger thing, not a smaller thing. Like Kuvacash, if we get this across Africa, that's great because at the end of the day, it's everybody using Dash. And that's the foundation of what we have, you know, powering the whole of Kuvacash. So, you know, we're noticing some of that conversation. I wish I could like sit down and have a chat with some people who are kind of coming against this a little bit. It's not a case of one or the other. You know, we wouldn't be able to go in and represent the Dash brand. We don't own it, and it's not really resonant or relevant for the type of activity that we're producing on the ground. What is relevant is that Dash is the foundation and underpinning platform of everything that we're doing, and that, you know, that we're also being paid by the Dash DAO to do this. So yeah, I don't know. Any questions around that, I'm happy to answer, or at least I want to get into a little bit of a dialogue there because Frame 48 is doing a fantastic job of, they're going to be following around a bunch of teams who are going to be working under all sorts of, some of them be working under direct brands, some of them will be doing like educational initiatives for, you know, what is Dash. Others will be working like us, will be like a Kuvacash. And they're capturing the story of what's on the ground. And it's very important that, you know, we wanted to support them getting that funding, and I'm very glad it came through. But I want to make sure that we address the concerns of the network. We're there to land Dash. We're there to make this a very big thing, and we have to do it in the right way. And, you know, we're taking a certain approach, right? Frame 48 is going to like follow us around, and you'll get some very, very intimate views on what it is that's happening on the ground. I think that's going to really help people to understand further what it takes to like launch something like this, and also, you know, be able to be a part of the commentary and be a part of the whole process. Really, you know, anyone who's supporting our project is part of the team that's actually landing this in Zimbabwe and in the wider African continent.
You guys really are impressing me here. So James, I'm going to put on my devil's advocate hat. I'm going to play a little bit of wet blanket type of deal. So like, I've seen some people that say you guys don't have a chance with the regulatory stuff that you guys have to do and everything else. The climate in Zimbabwe, it's not going to happen. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, what I can say is that 5 months ago, nobody would have imagined that there would have been a change in government in the way that it happened. And the reality is it happened because there was a set of circumstances that precipitated that happening. I would say that we're at a point where, again, there's a special set of circumstances where effectively you've got a broken financial system, where you've got very, very significant holes in the way in which people are able to transact. So to give you a very simple context, if you are a business that needs to make an international payment to a supplier, if you are on a priority list, you will wait 3 weeks until you actually have enough Forex to be able to send and make a payment. Right now, as things stand, there are we talk about there's different exchange rates in operation. We talk about different currencies that are in operation, but actually there are multiple levels of exchange rate discrepancy. So, for example, the rate between the local surrogate currency and the USD is different between $1 and $5 notes. It's different again for for $10 and $20 notes, and the same for $50 and $100 notes. So you've got not one parallel market, you've got several parallel markets in operation. So you have very, very serious disjointing of the existing financial services environment that's in Zimbabwe. That at the end of the day costs man on the street a whole lot more. If he wants to do anything, because of those exchange rate differentials, basically products on shelves cost more. Fuel to put in your vehicle, that costs more. So as a nation, as people, there is a need to actually look at what are the alternatives that are out there. What has been refreshing is that even similarly conservative environments and governments have already started experimenting with blockchain technology. So the South African Reserve Bank very recently has been doing some trials with blockchain technology, as have other countries. So I would say in the case of Zimbabwe, things change very, very quickly. We expect that we don't expect that to slow down, particularly as we head towards an election that nobody really can call at this point. So I think what we have to do on our side, the things that we can control, we need to make sure that we've got an absolutely great product that's got a great experience, that's super convenient and accessible for people, and be as open and transparent with regulators, and importantly, partner with organizations that have the necessary regulatory frameworks in place. So I think if we do those things, the things that are in our control, whatever else happens around that, I think we'll be in a good position to work with the environment here. Also, we are not approaching this with any level of naivety in terms of the prevailing conditions that are here. This is why we are on the ground, and I think this distinguishes us from many crypto plays, not just within the Dash play, but across the cryptocurrency spectrum, where we're actually on the ground liaising with real merchants, real banks, real central banks, real consumers who need to actually use the service.
Okay, I have to leave you on that note. My wife tells me I've got to go, but I definitely want to have you guys on the show again when you're a little bit further into the process, because it really sounds interesting. So I hope that my viewers get a little bit more of an idea of what you guys are up to, and sounds like it's gonna be catching. You guys really have figured out what you need to do down there. So I'm very impressed.
Thanks, Tom. Well, we appreciate this.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being on the show, guys.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that was the team from Kuvacash. I hope you enjoyed. That's all for me today. I hope you liked this video. Subscribe and click the bell if you want to see more from me in Dash and Cash Alternative TV episodes. Until next time, remember, Dash is a digital alternative to cash, and becoming more so every day. Bye for now.